Halloween just around the corner, it got me thinking of all the scary stuff I saw growing up. The scary movies of my youth. The Jasons, the Chuckies, the Freddy Kruegers, and the accompanying childhood traumas. And it made me think, why did I watch these? Who let me watch these? And of what I did watch, I think I watched most of it through my fingers. Either out of sheer terror, or because all the naked ladies. Trying to recapture some of that feeling, I found myself looking through movies from the 80s and stumbled across 1987's Night of the Demons. Again, who let me watch this? Unknowingly, this movie was responsible for some of the most traumatic memories of my childhood. I've had scenes of this movie stuck in my head for the past 3 decades, never even remembering what movie it came from. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe it was the Crypt Keeper. Are my memories the only ones filled with monsters, murder, and mayhem? I sat down with my brother Mundo and my childhood friend Lorena to explore some of the hidden entries of our childhood traumas. Have a seat and join us on a trip down a scary memory lane. Vintage horror, how I remember it.
I'll show you guys my wall.
Hey, that's cool right there. Bela Lugosi, Psycho, Nosferatu.
No.
Poltergeist.
My pride and joy.
Nice, yeah.
Those are dope. I've seen a lot of scary movies and I can still enjoy a scary movie. I can't watch them that much anymore. They don't let me watch them in my house anymore. Every once in a while I watch scary movies and I'm like, oh shit, that's scary. But you enjoy it. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's the adrenaline rush that makes you feel like, because sometimes you get scared and you'll stay scared for the rest of the evening. But then the next day you can be like, oh, that was pretty scary. And maybe your body, your brain feels like you survived something. You know what I mean? Like I went to sleep and then I woke up and my adrenaline's gone and I feel better now.
When people go, I don't watch horror movies, but then do they not realize that all these other movies that are out there, like even Rambo? I mean,
Yeah, that's some serious gore in there. I love that.
Yeah, like come on. All the what is it? Reservoir Dogs. Come on, Reservoir Dogs is just like a bloodbath of like gore if you think about it, you know? And then with the cool music, that soundtrack.
You see that gore and everything.
Yeah.
Anything worth watching, I mean.
When it comes down to it, though, as far as a horror movie goes for me, there's a lot of different things that kind of create a classic for me. You know, I mean, just because it was a blockbuster hit doesn't mean that it's one of my top favorite. And the main thing for me is story. It has to have a great story.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It has to be believable story, and not in the believable sense that it could really happen per se, but even supernaturally is possible, you know.
Because things were on TV, I never seen the beginnings or the ends of them, okay? We live in an age where everything's omnipresent. Everything's always available to you. You know what I mean? And like the same thing, for the last 30 years, I couldn't search freaky girl biting guy's tongue off. You know what I mean? You couldn't find that. So it has lived in your memory. And I think that's probably why things are so traumatic, you know what I mean? Because it is trapped in there. You have, like I said, when you walk into a scary movie as a little kid and you have no context, that image is in there. You can't relate it to anything. It's just like, no, I saw it and that shit was scary. But one of the scenes that I remember from that movie, Night of the Demons, is at the end of the movie, the guy's eating an apple pie and then he swallows cut up razor blades. And so they're coming out of his throat. It's bleeding all over the place, right? In my mind, it was just like, I don't know what movie. There's no way that I could think to look it up. You know what I mean? Like, what would I say? Sexy girl dancing.
Yes, you could have. Look at you. Razor blades and apple pie. Come on.
I guess so.
I'm going to look it up right now.
Now, that movie I actually liked. I liked it for what it was. That, to me, if you want to, encompass what the 80s were like, that's what I felt they were like. I felt like I was in the 80s. I felt like I was watching the 80s movie. Everything from because to me, it had everything, you know. It had the flesh, it had the gore, it had a believable, kind of demon theme going on to it.
Mm.
And it's only that night. It's Halloween. And of
Mhm.
course, the kids, want to party. Yeah, they're egging each other on, add all the elements of a basic good horror movie. I remember that scene too of the old man eating his own apple pie and the razors cutting through his throat, right? The crazy thing was that I've always had that in my head forever, but I didn't know who it was from. I didn't know it was from Tales from the Crypt, because that's where I thought it was from, Tales from the Crypt. And I didn't know what movie it was from. But when I seen that and at the very end, I'm like, this is that movie? Because I always remember that image in my head. I'm like, damn.
What was a scary movie that you remember seeing on all those late night TV shows, late at night when you would see stuff and you stay up late, too late?
Yeah, like I think it would be Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Poltergeist. And then I felt like, like that's when my brain started going like, all right, maybe everywhere we walk, we're on top of an Indian burial ground.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember waking up, it was like 2 a.m, but I was in Ensenada with my aunt. And I woke up and I turned on the TV and it's like this movie about witches and it's like this naked lady making out with the snake.
Wow.
And like, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, I was what, like 11? And I'm like, I was like looking around, like, what is this? Like, is this really happening?
Am I
Like on
dreaming?
TV? Yeah, like it was so on. And then I remember trying to look for that stupid movie, like the way you said, naked lady with snake, but it's like, no, it's not working out, but it was a horror
You'll get a lot of results for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like a horror movie about like witches, but I never could find it. But yeah, it was that like late at night, even in Mexico, like.
Was it a Mexican movie or was it just
It was an American movie.
Huh.
Yeah. From that, I valió. Yeah.
What about you, Mondo?
Yeah, for me, it seems during those times, every time you turn on the TV, I would remember seeing Halloween, like Halloween again, but I sit there and watch it, and I think that is what ingrained in my head to be scared of people with masks that didn't talk, right?
Yeah.
Like it was more scary that you didn't talk if you're wearing a mask than you did because you didn't know who's behind that mask.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know what their thoughts were. Where were they at in their mindset? And more than anything, I was scared of not somebody chasing me, but somebody slow walking after me. You know what I mean? Like now here's a crazy story, man. And the reason why I'm telling you this because it leads me up to one of the most I guess one of the shameful and most out of this world things that ever happened to me. I was at my grandma's house and I remember being back there with my younger cousin and somehow some way he was trying to scare me, because we were watching horror movies at the time, whatever. And out of nowhere, he threw on a box on his head. And he's coming, and then all of a sudden he, goes into like zombie mode or whatever. And he's like, I'm gonna get you. And he's walking real slow. And that freaked me out, man. And so I was like, take that box off, man. Take that box off. And I was like 11, 12. I'm like, take that box off, man. I'm freaking out. And then he wouldn't stop. He'd coming close to me, wouldn't say nothing. And can you believe it? I looked next to me and there was a screwdriver. And I stabbed him right through the top of the box in his head. And my tia got so mad. And she was like, why did you stab him in the head for? I said, you tell me I was scared. I was like, he was a monster, man. I mean, I knew it was him, but I didn't know because he wasn't talking anymore. I didn't know where his mind was at,
Yeah, you don't know what happened once you put that on there. Just fair game at that point.
It changed me too,
Yeah.
That was crazy, man.
Damn. I think there's that element with like Jason, same thing with Michael Myers, where there's no talking that makes it the most scary, Because then it's all music. Because the same thing with Jason Voorhees, then you're listening to kill. So and it was so crazy as a little kid when I gave myself chills right now, and I'm not even scared of that movie. But anyway, when you're walking around as a little kid, I have this thing inside of me. My mind goes to certain places and I can't get rid of it. So when I'm walking, taking the trash out at nighttime, I can't help but in my head hear kill, 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 kill.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you watch Final Destination.
Yeah.
Is that shit that just stays stuck in you, like all those little small things, and I think all of the movies do that to you.
I think how the 80s horror films kind of shaped my life, if you want to put it out there like that, is simply put as I'm not intimidated by many things, but the dark. The dark, to say the least. If there is an unfamiliar area for me and I have to go there, whether it's the forest or, when I first moved into my house and we have a detached garage, between the back of the yard where we keep our trash. When we first moved there, every time I turned that corner, I was always at full alert, ready for somebody to be there, and it sounds funny, but it's not so much that I was scared. It's just that I always felt I'm not going to be unprepared for what could be behind there. You know what I mean?
Karate chop, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, I'm ready to go if it needs to be, because all those movies I've seen, there's something always on the other side.
Do you guys ever remember Tales from the Dark Side?
Yeah.
That shit. Yeah. Those were creepy as fuck too. And then there's also even Twilight Zone, even though it's not horror, but the Twilight Zone, and then Tales from the Dark Side, and what is it, Creep Show?
Yeah.
And then Tales from the Crypt. All those were the ones that I would watch on a constant, like on TV. Yeah. I was like, that was what I looked forward on the weekends, like. And then my parents would be like, turn off the TV. Yeah, we're gonna turn it off. And we'd wait till they go to sleep, and then we'd be like in slow-mo, and then we'd go and turn it back on. And then in the middle of the night, I'm all telling my sister, I was like, I need to go to the bathroom. And she'd be like, I don't care. And then yes, I would wet my bed.
You know what? But you were safer there. You know what I mean?
Guess so. It was because watching those movies, dude, it was just like all that trauma that we would endure that we were just so used to. I guess back in those days, it wasn't like mental health wasn't a big issue,
I feel like there's so much information now. Scary things are less scary to newer kids because they can look up everything. They see the behind the scenes CGI, they see this and this and that, you know what I mean? So it's almost like a desensitization.
I don't know, but back in our days, like I guess it was the fear of not knowing, you know what I mean? Like of not knowing exactly what it was or whatever, of not being able to look it up,
Now the demons are in the electronic devices.
Yep, there you go. Poltergeist.
Because back then, you could go ahead and somebody would get killed in a party, right? And nobody would know, so the killer would go killing people throughout the party.
Nowadays, cameras.
They would have filmed it, put it on social media, and everybody would have seen it. And everybody's like, I'm out of this party, man.
Yeah.
Well, you got to see it also. Like, there's been 9/11. You know what I mean?
Like real.
And then
real
what we're living through right now, if you think about it, what we're living through right now, like it's like if you don't wash your hands, or don't go, stand 6 feet from someone, you might get something that might kill you if you think about it. Like, now kids are like, I don't know, it's kind of, there's something else, they're not like us.
Like Hellraiser, and that's scary and all stuff like that. But I think there's something that's more scary to me than other movies. And like you were saying about Poltergeist, like those are real things. You know what I mean? Like, are there Indian burial grounds? Yeah. Are there spirits because we grew up Catholic? You say, yeah, I remember all that stuff.
Out of all those movies, I feel like Pet Sematary was the most that could happen, like for real, I guess. I don't know why. Dude, I was like, oh my God. I felt like that shit was like gonna happen for real. Like out of all of them, I was like, that one's the one.
If I get anything out of this conversation, Lorena, is that you're scared of Indian burial grounds.
Yeah.
not anymore.
When you bring in the spiritual element, that's somebody nobody knows. Nobody can get a grasp of. Nobody can ever say, oh, I'm used to the spiritual thing, the ghosts and the demons.
Yeah.
I'm used to that. Nobody can ever say that. So when you bring that element into something, then that's when people are scared of the dark again. They're just like, oh my God, I heard something outside. what is that? What's going on? And
El chupacabras.
yeah, the window just shut. Did you leave that door open? Why it wasn't open before? And then people start freaking.
And the scary part, like in the back of your thing there, the Amityville Horror.
That's one of my favorite of all time. The original Amityville Horror is one of my favorite of all time. That scared me as a kid. I was always scared of that movie. Always scared of that movie.
Did you watch that? Did you watch that recently?
No, I didn't. I don't want to watch. I'm scared.
Yeah. And maybe it is just our religion. Maybe there's atheists that maybe are not affected by it. They're just like, I'm not scared. Well, that's not me. I'll tell you that much. One of the things that I remember watching in all these movies, because they were on Showtime and because they were on HBO, where I was seeing them, is everybody was naked in all the movies all the time. You know what I mean? You didn't have the confines of CBS or ABC or late at night. They didn't have that restriction. You know what I mean? It was F-bombs everywhere, naked ladies everywhere. And so that's kind of what I remember. And the other day I was watching a movie here, and I was watching Phantasm. That's another movie that I had never watched all the way through. So I'm watching the opening scene. There's a guy and a girl in a cemetery. And already right away, like, hey, they shouldn't be there. It's a cemetery. You know what I mean?
And they're having sex.
When they're having sex.
Yeah.
And so as soon as my wife Anna walks by, she says, what are you watching? Because she doesn't want to watch any of this stuff with me. And she says, what are you watching? And I said, I'm watching Phantasm. And this is literally like within the first 30 seconds to a minute of the movie, they show the opening scene, cemetery, and the girl's like, you know what I mean? And the camera just lingers there, and she's like, this is a scary movie. And I'm like, it's gonna be.
Well, it's soft porn if you think about it, though. Like the majority of all of them is soft porn. That's
you see just as many titties in soft porn as you do in some of these scary movies.
Yeah, that's all that movies are. I was gonna say, if you look at it, like the way the categories in the 80s and like earlier times, it's like if you were a teen, you were like out to do destructive things, and like you're driving fast and you're consuming alcohol and you're practicing in lewd sexual acts, and you're doing drugs, and that makes you closer to the devil, or to the bad things. And then the other one was like, if you're out having an affair, and you're not doing what you're supposed to, you're more vulnerable to being out, and attacked by a killer or, shit like that. It was just like these ways of like trying to like manipulating you also into not doing those things, but also at the same time, you're like so intrigued that they're doing those bad things. Hellraiser.
Yeah.
The brother, how he's like,
he's a sexual fiend. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like doing drugs and like having sex with ladies and all this stuff. And it's like that got him so close.
All the cool stuff.
Yeah, he had to get that final rush, and that's when he got the box, it's stuff like that.
That's because he didn't try to have sex with the box. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Everything would have been fine.
And that's what happened. You're just like, but as a kid, you're like, yeah, oh my God, no, yes.
Good stuff, yeah.
Even in the case of, let's say, and this is something that I've noticed, even when I was little, that with Tales from the Crypt, everybody who was doing bad stuff got what was coming to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It wasn't just random, like, because I mean, you think about even like Jason Voorhees and stuff like that, they were out there doing bad stuff. You know what I mean? Like you go out there and trying to bone in the back cabin, you know what I mean? Like that man's gonna get you. You know what I mean? Tales from the Crypt, they're trying to cheat people. They're trying to kill their wife for the money or something like that. They're gonna get them. You know what I mean? Even when I watch true crime now, and you see him about like American Greed or Murderous Affairs, you see it like on the digital channels. Even when I'm watching that, I have the same mentality of Tales from the Crypt, and I'm like, you're gonna get what's coming to you, bitch. You know what I mean? Like it kind of sets up a mentality of justice, even dark justice. A lot of it was morality. They taught you something. A lot of these movies that we watch, they kind of have the same element where you have these people who go towards danger instead of away from danger. And it's kind of the same in that Greek play, Icarus, with the guy who got his wings, where you're trying to be too brave instead of trying to be cautious. Yeah, if there was an underground Indian burial thing, I don't want to go mess with it. When you see Poltergeist or even The Exorcist when they're playing with the Ouija board, I don't want to play with the Ouija board.
Yeah, that's exactly how I utilize scary movies, even to the present day. Whether I'm showing old classics that we're used to seeing, or some of the newer stuff out there, but I show my kids the movies for one reason and one reason only. So they're not that person that says, "What's that chainsaw out there? Uh, who's cutting wood out there that this late at night? I'm going to take a look, see who it is." So when they hear something that don't sound right, you stay away from there.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like a scare tactic. But my kids know. So when I say, "Hey, go take out the trash," they're like, "It's dark." Like, and like, but what if somebody gets me? I'm like, then run. You run over there, throw it in, and you run back. And that's what they do.
It is about the moral of the story. Like I had said earlier, remember, it's like if you're a teenager, you're doing drugs, you're gonna get it, or anything bad, there's consequences. And that's all these movies are. But people don't know that because they don't see beyond that. Oh no, it's scary, it's the devil. Oh no, let's not watch that. But if we were to use common sense, we wouldn't do those things, and then we wouldn't have movies.
Maybe all those scary movies were worth something after all. Not so much glorification, but cautionary tales, warnings of what to stay away from, mistakes to avoid, and most of all, examples of who you don't want to end up like. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, share it, and subscribe for more content like this. This is Ruben of Posse Cafe reminding you, life is short. Have fun, okay?
What bothered me in that movie was that there was so much, like, the lady was killing people for the dude, for the brother, and then she was just washing her hands with water, and there was soap right there, and she's just like with the water, and she's like, and I'm just like, how gross. Like, damn, the soap's right there.